Welcome to the road to $1 million US, and let's get right into the Bitcoin chart for today. In this video, I'm going to talk about some things we could be looking out for here on Monday, as well as my overall market outlook. Now, over the weekend, we basically expected some choppy sideways price action. As you can see, we are trading exactly within this parallel channel that I drew on Friday, which actually brings me to this second point here, being the Bollinger Bands on this 2-hour time frame, because the Bitcoin price is severely getting squeezed by these Bollinger Bands, and typically this precedes a massive move coming for Bitcoin, in this case on the lower time frames. To give you an example of what I'm talking about, right here you can see that we were in this downtrend, the Bollinger Bands severely contracted, severely squeezed the price, and from there we saw a very explosive move to the upside in this case. But I want to be very clear that these Bollinger Bands typically only indicate that more volatility and likely some kind of massive move is coming. However, it does not indicate the direction, only that massive volatility is coming. So let's take off the Bollinger Bands and actually continue with this Bitcoin analysis on other time frames. For example, this 4-hour time frame right here, you can see that along these candle closes, we are still on a technical downtrend on this 4-hour time frame. Overall, this is leaning slightly more bearish, but if we actually start breaking this descending trend line, for example, at around 110.5K, possibly even breaking through this ascending trend line here, then we could potentially start to look for another short-term move to the upside. Right now, there's just a lot of resistance ahead here in the short term. And you can also see that on this 1-day time frame, because notice how right here we are trading exactly in this area of resistance, sitting from 110 all the way up to 112K on this 1-day time frame. In the case that we break through 112K, the next area of resistance above is sitting from around this 115K level all the way up to 117K. However, in terms of support to the downside, that is sitting from 107 all the way down to 105K. And I know that I keep repeating this in my videos over and over again, but so long as we are not breaking through 115.5K with 1-day candle closes, then I am simply bearish biased on this 1-day time frame. If we start getting candle closes above, then you will start to see me look for another move to the upside for Bitcoin. Something that is noteworthy though, if we are starting to look at the shorter term structure for Bitcoin, notice how previously we were making lower lows and lower highs, but right now if we only look at this section here, we are actually in a short-term uptrend. So we are creating higher highs and higher lows. The structure therefore is starting to look a little bit more bullish in the short term. However, once again, we need confirmation of a move above 115.5K before we can really start looking for another bigger move to the upside for Bitcoin. What I'm trying to say is that until then, there's simply more risk in the market to be extremely bullish in some kind of swing position here. However, of course, on the much lower time frames, you can long and short all you want, because there can be a difference between the different time frames. I think this 2-day time frame actually highlights it most clearly, because here you can see that nothing much has really changed for Bitcoin. Right now, this isn't really a time to be sounding the alarm bells, in my personal opinion, but it's also not a time to be saying that we need to go to 150K. It is actually right in the middle of that, which is why during times like this, it is very important to have a balanced outlook on the market. So you're not extremely bullish and you're not extremely bearish either. It actually makes sense to be trading the lower time frames, because while we are basically just chopping sideways like this, all of the opportunity is going to be on the lower time frames where there can actually be clear trends, like for example this short-term move to the upside and this short-term move to the downside. Here you can try to long this and short this while we are just chopping sideways on the higher time frames. So hopefully that makes sense. Now let's move on to the Bitcoin liquidation heat map. First of all, on this 1 week time frame, notice how right here we have liquidity on both sides. So we have liquidity at 108.6K and liquidity around 111.9k. The reason we have liquidity on both sides is because we were basically just chopping sideways over the weekend as expected on Friday, and this tends to create big pockets of liquidity on both sides. Now if I zoom out to this higher time frame, here you can see that we actually have a big liquidity to the downside around this 106k level. So it is still very important to keep a balanced outlook on this market, because most of the liquidity is once again to the downside. Therefore, if you start to see those warning signals show up, like for example another rejection from that descending trend line I showed you, perhaps some kind of bearish divergence, even if we see some kind of short-term move to the upside, possibly some horizontal levels of support being broken on the lower time frames, those are the type of signals to be watching out for this liquidity to be grabbed. On the flip side though, if we now start to break that descending trend line that I showed you, perhaps even breaking through this, then we can start to look for a bunch of liquidity to be grabbed to the upside as well. The most bullish thing that could possibly happen right now is that we get candle closes above 115.5k. After that, you will start to see me get much more bullish on Bitcoin once again. But for now, that is not the case. So therefore, I am bearish biased and simply being a bit more patient. So this has been today's market update. Best of luck trading in this upcoming week here, guys. I will leave a link to WEEX in the pinned comment of this video below, because if you register with the link in that comment, then you actually get a massive trading fee discount that most people do not have access to. I personally trade on WEEX as well as a bunch of people in my community, so I highly recommend you go check it out. But regardless, if you do end up doing that or not, thank you for watching once again, and I will see you tomorrow in the next one.